Okay, cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Not the More You Shortbox, but auction preview with your favorite neighborhood shortbox guy, Kevin, and my colleague Nate here, formerly of PeerBid, who's now a big part of the Golden Age portion of our auction stuff that we're doing on the Shortboxed app. You want to say hi, Nate?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me. Kevin, I appreciate the intro. Like he's mentioned, I'll be jumping in. You'll be seeing me on more and more short box content as I'm helping them curate and put together these golden age auctions. So part of that is we really want to make sure that we're educating and diving into some of these items that might be new to some people, or you're just here to learn more. So that's where I'll be doing these video series and kind of highlighting some of the special items in these auctions.
Yeah, and with Golden Age, in my experience, and you can chime in on this if you feel the same way, but a lot of the time with Golden Age, you need to provide a bit more context for the book's value and for its importance to really be, carry some weight with people that are browsing the auctions. So today we're going to go through four of the highlighted books, some of the coolest ones that we've got in our upcoming Golden Age auction. We'll talk a little bit about the specifics and previous sales for those and why we think they're going to land where they're going to land, and then we'll cover the rest of the books that are in the lot as well briefly, just to sort of talk about those and show them off to you guys a little bit. So um, let's
Absolutely.
let's jump in with a little presentation. This is our first foray in StreamYard, this platform that we're using here to do that. So sorry if it looks a little rough around the edges, but this is where we're going to start. Look at all of this incredible stuff. For those that don't know Golden Age comics, pretty much any comics from the 50s or earlier. If your comic came out in 1960, not going to be a Golden Age book. Some of them are really close. They're right on the edge there, but that's the typical sort of norm, is that any book that's from the 50s or older is considered a Golden Age book.
Yep. And the way we're going to be structuring these auctions is we're going to try and have a kind of the leader big book as our anchor. We're going to drop down from there and have kind of middle level books somewhere between 1,000 to 5,000 range, somewhere in there. And then we'll have your usually going to be probably more lower grade, but entry level books going to typically fall around $100 to $500 range. This way, no matter if you're a seasoned collector or you're new to Golden Age, there will kind of be something for everyone in these.
Yeah, we want stuff for all budgets, all interests. We've got some horror, we've got some superhero, we've got some war stuff, and we'll go over a couple of those things. Got some, man, that Vault of Horror is awesome. We've got some awesome, really, really incredible artists that are on the covers of a bunch of these, which is also another thing that really adds value to Golden Age books, is who the creators are. Um, some of these guys you maybe have never heard of. Some of them you might hear of all the time. So we'll just dive right in, and we'll start with the flagship book of the sale, this Captain America 3.
Yep, Captain America Comics 3. And I will go ahead and dive into some details about this one. So I think everyone at Shortbox really excited to kick off our Golden Age auctions with such a special book like this. Captain America Comics 3 has been desirable as long as people have been collecting Golden Age comics. It's an early cap, early timely. It's got the first published text story for Stan Lee, and it just stands out amongst the cap covers. It's very yellow dominant, where a lot of Captain America comics are very red. So it's different amongst the title. It's got a cool Red Skull cover on it. It's got a lot of different reasons why this would be a Captain America people want for their collection. Schomburg as well, which is definitely going to be probably one of your more key artists for Captain America. So it kind of checks off every box a Golden Age collector would be looking for this book. So we've got, for this auction, a very nice presenting 3.0 cream to off-white pages, cover detached. If you look front and back sides of it, if you go on the app, you can go look at some nice high-res images, zoom in. No major pieces missing, no chipping, no discoloration. It's a great 3.0. And as I zoomed in on this one, which you can do on the app as well, is I think with this specific copy, if I were the individual that won it, I think you could actually clean and press up some of that eye appeal. Now, I don't think you're going to change the grade on a 3.0 with it being detached, but with a book like this, eye appeal plays a huge part in its value. When you
Yeah.
go and zoom on it, you'll see some writing, you'll see some dirt here and there. And I think that with a good clean and press, you probably could make this thing look even better. So that's what I would do if I were the winner on this book.
Yeah.
And nice thing about going on the app there is if you see some of the writing, some of the dirt, I think that could be cleaned up. And with a press, you're not worried about splitting it. The cover's already detached. So
Little slow crawl
I
for you
don't think
guys.
you would get out of that 3.0, but you could have a very, very great looking 3.0. With a book like this, eye appeal does play a huge part of it.
And then you call this a bondage cover when you got someone tied down, or is it only when a female is
If
tied
you're,
down? Because I don't think it says bondage on here, does it?
I don't think I've ever seen the bondage note used for boys or men. I think that's not inclusive. I think we should get a little mandage note on some of these.
Yeah. I mean, Bucky's bound. He's about as
Yeah.
bound as it gets right now. I mean, his legs are
I'll,
even tied back.
we can write a note to CGC and see if we can get that added onto it. It can be our
It's
contribution to
2024,
the
guys. Get with the
community.
program.
So diving into some data on this one, 126 graded copies. It's a high demand book. It's not exactly the rarest of the Captain Americas, but it is extremely in high demand. Every time one comes up, it usually gets a lot of buzz. People go after it. Recent sales, you do have a restored 3.0 just sold last week. Same exact page quality, restored 3.0 sold for 14,400. So that was a pretty strong sale for a resto copy on this. And it was cool to see almost the exact same book, just a restored version of it sell. So that should give some price indicators for what to look for on this one. Going back a little ways from that, lower grade, you have a 1.8 off-white sold on April 7th for 15,600. So using those two together, using the rest of the 1.8, I would look for this copy to sell for around 25,000. Schomburg's been doing well. Captain America, early Captain America has been going up and up. Always is, but it's been on a good trend lately, specifically this book. Looking at that restored copy, I think this one should end about 25,000 is where bidders should look for this to be.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited to see. This is a great way to kick off. I think at Shortbox Live, you guys had this one on display as well. So some of you might have seen the book there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really excited to get into this one. I'm excited to see where this lands, and it's going to go to a good home. And as you mentioned also on that note, something cool to show off, because you won't get to see this when it's slabbed, but it's good for you to know. It does have a note about that hanging panel, which is on the splash page. It's got this crazy image of Cap and Bucky hanging, Red Skull. It's definitely one of the standout splash pages from Cap, which has a bunch of great splash pages. So that's where you get that hanging panel note from.
And Nate and I were talking about that. I've seen some mixed reviews on what hanging panel actually means. My assumption was that it was somebody being hung, much like a hypodermic cover is someone with a hypodermic needle, or a bondage cover. Like, it's about as apparent as it can be. But then some people said that it was like a storytelling choice, or some way that they did use the panels. But Nate is of the opinion that it is actually someone hanging, because lo and behold, you have a panel with someone hanging in it. So
I've never seen that used for like to depict a cliffhanger. It's usually more literal in the
right,
sense of someone's hanging, someone's decapitated. It's usually denotes some extreme
right.
violence. Usually
Parents to be
is what
warned.
that's for.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
So
so that is
we'll
the
call,
Cap
we'll call it
3 in
mystery
this one.
solved. We'll call it mystery
Yeah,
solved. Hanging panel. There you go. Somebody hanging in a panel. But yeah, very cool splash page for that book.
I'm excited
Um,
to see where this one goes. And our next one is definitely I would say it's equally as cool and also features some great Joe Simon work. So next up, we've got Silver Street Comics 2. For anyone who's been in Golden Age a while, they'll tell you this is an extremely tough book to get. It seems to only show up about once a year, and it's been that way for a long time. This specific copy is a CGC 1.8, tan to off-white. It is taken from a bound volume, For those who don't know quite what that means, basically, once upon a time, someone took a bunch of old comics and rebound them into one big book so that they could flip through it easier. Sometimes you would see the production offices or publishing offices do this. Sometimes collectors would do it because once upon a time they were reading these old comics, more so interested than the covers, so they would put them all together in one big bound book so they could flip through them easier. So this copy was taken out of a bound volume like that. Like I mentioned, super rare. If you zoom in, Kevin, you can see
Yeah.
it's very interesting. I think it's Silver Streak 1, 2, and 3 have this metallic ink on the
Oh yeah.
title text, and they note that as well. It's yeah, I don't can't think of any other comic book that has that, has this like metallic ink effect, which I'm glad it's slabbed because I can only imagine metallic ink from the 40s is probably not safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm guessing we didn't see that as a common thing for a reason.
Yeah. Don't let your babies read your comics if they have silver ink.
No, specifically not this one. So diving into some kind of cool things on this one, like I mentioned, extremely rare. 24 total graded copies. That's it. That's nothing in the grand
Holy
scheme.
crap.
So
24?
24, yeah, 24 total graded copies. If you look back at the data, you see about one graded copy a year sale, and almost always they're lower grade copies. You will very, very rarely see anything above a 3.0 on this book. Getting into some recent sales data, this exact copy, same one, sold back in 2020 for 1,200. Now, with Golden Age collecting, especially books like this, a year, it's like dog years for 1 year. So 2020 going back, I mean, that might as well be 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So this exact copy 20 or 4 years ago now, $1,200. And then we also just had a raw copy in the 1.0, 1.5 range, just sold on Heritage for about $1,400. And that's for a raw copy about 1.0, 1.5. So taking into effect the rarity, graded, presentation, I expect this one to end somewhere about 2,500 to 3,000.
Nice.
And I am the Cap 3. I'm extremely cool to see it. Great anchor book, but as like a Golden Age guy, this is the one I'm proud to see at auction.
There
It's,
you go.
it's cool to bring this one to auction. Is this one because you talk to Golden Age guys, this is the one that's going to turn heads, and they're like, "Whoa, wait, you guys are offering a Silver Streak too?" Because you just don't see it a lot.
Yeah. Well, dang, with like 25 on the 24 on the census, it's basically a ghost.
Yeah, and it's a super cool cover with the metallic cover. You got the claw, probably one of the cooler cover depictions of the claw you're going to see is on this one. So, all around, this is a cool one. I expect a lot of people to be after that one. And
Any
diving into our
is this cover got any special stuff on it? I don't see any ropes or hypodermic needles or anything like that.
I've never looked into the interior on this one as far as
Yeah.
cover, nothing
Yeah. Yeah.
depicted. Other than that metallic text is what's going to make it stand out.
So cool.
The irradiated ink. So,
Nuclear. The nuclear
yeah.
title of Silver Streak.
Next one up to bat for the highlights is going to be USA Comics 13. Great
Another-
Schomburg war cover, real classic one. So this is a CBCS 5.0 cream to off-white. Great presenting Warwick Schomburg war cover. Harder to find title amongst the timelies. You don't see the USAs quite as much as you see the other timely covers. So always cool when you see one of the USAs pop up. On this specific issue, there's only 37 total graded for CGC. So CGC has 37 total graded. We didn't look into the CBCS. I'm going to guess on this one, there's probably less than 6 CBCS for these graded. It's only been 3 graded sales in the last 2 years. So it's been a bit of a ghost over the last 2 years for a Captain America cover, which tend to trade hands pretty frequently.
Yeah, some old ass paper. Surprised it's hanging in there in a 5.0 this much longer after 1944 for the published date. That's an old bunch of paper you got there.
Absolutely, man. I mean, Heart of the War, great war cover, genre. I mean, it is amazing when you think back how much this has been through in history to stay
Yeah.
in this condition. I mean
Well, I
that
mean,
never really loses its effect when you see these books. You got to think what they've all been through to get to this point and remain in that condition.
well, we're all just kind of used to everything we get bags and boards. They didn't have bags and boards back then.
No,
It was
yeah, it
just
would have
a
been
stack of
sitting
papers that
in.
you hoped wouldn't get moldy or get brittle or sit in the sun too long or whatever. They really wasn't like technology to preserve these books in the same way that we have now. And to even
Yep,
further that, there was a lot of the retailers that sold these books. They didn't keep the ones that didn't sell. They would shred the covers. They would send them back to pulp the paper.
yep,
So they were actively destroying these books, which is why Golden Age. That's why the rarity is such a big thing. Like these books made it through the culling essentially when the
absolutely. I think we sometimes lose how crazy it is that there's only sub 50 of an item out there.
yeah
Like
yeah
that in the whole world. Like that's not just USA. Like the nat multi nations have ability to grade books. So that means worldwide there's under 50 graded copies. So I think we do lose sight of how crazy limited that is.
yeah.
So
And I
yeah, I
always
mean,
think of it this way too, like 1944. I mean, we're not quite there yet, but that's 20 years from this book being 100 years old.
yeah, I mean that's 80 years of avoiding mice, kids,
Yeah,
donations, sold, changing hands. So yeah, you
yeah.
gotta think a lot of these golden age comics at this point have outlived their original purchaser.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
which is that's
Yeah,
crazy to think about.
yeah.
As some kid back in the day grabbing this off a news rack or something. So
Yeah.
pretty crazy. So yeah, diving into some data specifics on this one. Like we said, only three graded sales in the last 2 years. A 6.5 sold for 6,600 in January 2023. And then the only other sale relevant to this one is you have a 9.0 sold for 12,000 in March 2023. So using those two, taking CBCS into effect, combining everything, I have this one should go for about 4,500. I think is where this one should fall. If it were a CGC copy, probably would bump up closer to five.
Yeah.
Which, as the buyer, you can do whatever you want with it once you have it.
Yeah. You could regrade it if you want with CGC if you're worried about the
Yep.
value.
And
Um,
I've looked at this book back and front. The grade's probably going to stay the exact same. It's a pretty true 5.0. So you want to cross it over to CGC? Yeah, you're more than welcome to.
yeah.
And getting
One of
into
these
the
days,
next, what's that?
one of these days there will be some parity, eventually between CGC and CBCS. I don't know when, but
Yeah,
as long as I've known, it's always been a little bit of a percentage off of what the CGCs are is what the CBCSs sell for,
my
unfortunately.
just general rule of thumb, and this seems to be somewhat accurate, is I look at about 25% less than what it would be in CGC same grade.
Yeah.
So if it was $1,000 CGC, I say, okay, it's probably 750, 800 CBCS.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my general rule for how I look at these.
Right.
And getting into our next one here is we're definitely sticking with the rare train on these. So our next highlight here is going to be the Web of Evil 5. Crazy classic PCH cover from Jack Cole. It's a CGC 4.0 off-white pages. Definitely one of the iconic PCH covers. Electrocution chair, the orange pops. I mean, him laughing, being electrocuted. This is definitely one of the PCH guys always look for.
He looks psychotic. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if you start looking at these PCH, the covers are wild, but if you can find the interiors, I think you can understand why the comic code came into effect, because the interiors are just wild on some of these books.
Yeah. Damn.
So, yeah, this is definitely, yeah. I've always thought this is one of the standout PCH covers just because it's so creepy with the guy laughing while being electrocuted, the close-up imagery of it.
Yeah. This guy's face right here. Just
It's a cool
freak.
one. Yeah, great Jack Cole cover on this one. Getting into some specifics, 56 total graded, only one graded sale in the last 2 years. So this has been kept underground for a couple years now with only one graded sale on this book. And that's a while. So people have been holding on to this one. The only recent data we could pull up was a 2.5 sold for 1,300 about a year ago. So given the off-white pages, 4.0 strong in this book, looking at the past sales, I would expect this copy to be 3,500 to 4,000 for this one.
Hell yeah.
So pretty diverse offering here. These are the highlight books, some of the standout ones. You've got some Schomburg, you got a classic Timely, you've got the Silver Streak 2, which is, I don't know the next time you're going to see a graded one of those come up. So that's one I would definitely keep your eyes on. USA is a great war cover, one of the harder titles for Timely. And then you've got this PCH Classic with Web of Evil. So we got a little bit of everything here.
Let's go back to the old
and then now we've got
the other guys.
Yeah, some honorable mentions here stood out to me. You have the Saint, great Matt Baker cover on this one. Matt Baker's been on a tear the last 2 years. So a 3 on this book, you can probably get into a nice Matt Baker, not too bad. It's been great. Terrors, that's a great book down there. Great LB Cole cover on the Terrors of the Jungle. When you're looking on the app, a fun one to look at is that Restored Smash Comics. If you go in, what actually stands out to me is if you go and look at the back cover for that book later, it's got a really unusual advertisement for another character amongst that title. And you don't see that a whole lot. They basically use the back cover of this one as another, it almost looks like a front cover of another comic.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, it's got an unusual back cover for the Golden Age books on that one. You've got nice Walt Disney comics. Everyone loves some early Walt Disney stuff. There's one for you collectors of that. You got a Frank Frazetta horror cover and the Beware. 0.5, but still presents pretty well for a 0.5. You can get into a nice Frazetta horror, probably pretty affordably on that copy. So we got a little bit of everything here. I like this. And as we move forward too, I think we're going to stay consistent with trying to keep about 30 to 50, maybe 60 books per auction. So it's advantageous to both sides. Buyers don't get distracted and lost in a sea of books to look from. And as sellers, everyone's going to see your stuff. You're not going to get buried by hundreds and hundreds of other books. Everyone's going to get a fair opportunity to be seen. So I look forward to seeing that go along, and I think buyers and sellers are both going to be happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Well, since we're looking at this now, we're talking about how big the auction lots are going to be. Let's take a quick moment just to let everyone know. If you saw some cool Golden Age books there that you want to watch for the duration of the sale, this is going to be a unique sale for us. It's the first auction we're doing that will have bidding going for an entire week. That will launch on Wednesday and it will end next week on Wednesday. So we're giving you guys lots of time to consider your options, move the money around so you can go buy a 20K cap 3 if you want, 25K, I think. Yeah, 25K. So yeah, and I should also say that if you have Golden Age books that you want to send in to Shortbox in order for us to put them up in an awesome auction like this, give it a nice platform so people can go check it out and see if it's something they want to spend their money on. Simply reach out to either myself or Nate. You can reach me at Kevin_Shortbox. You can reach him at Key High Collectibles or Kevin@shortbox.com. Just send me an email. I can walk you through the process of qualifying the books, making sure it's something that we'll take, as well as the info that you need in order to ship that to us so that we can put it up in a sale. We'll be doing Golden Age auctions. I think it's every 2 weeks.
I think we're going to stick to once a month.
Once a month for now. So you got plenty of time. We're doing this sale now. The next one will be in a month. So you got all the time you need to reach out and we can have that conversation. And stay tuned. We're going to be creating some other content to show you guys how to get your books in auction real soon. So
yeah, Kevin, and like you mentioned as well, if anyone has any Golden Age specific comments about the books in it or just your books, whatever, you can always message me on Instagram or Nate@shortbox.com. I'm happy to answer any questions about these. Like we mentioned in the beginning, a big part of this is education. So feel free to reach out. There's no real bad questions with these. So you can reach out, ask something. I'm happy to to give you anything I know about them, and I'm excited to see how this goes. I'm really, as a buyer before joining on here, this is a huge step forward for bidders because of probably my favorite feature is that you have the census and FMV on the listing. I can't
Yep.
tell you how much time we've spent, or I've even lost books at auction because I have to minimize out of one screen to go look at census on a different website, to go look at pricing on a different website, and I get distracted and I come back and I lost the item. So
Yeah.
having it all in one listing like this, especially for Golden Age, where you do have to do a little bit of research, having it all in the listing is a game changer for bidders, and I think they will notice that quickly. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see about this first one. Kevin, thanks for having me here. Like we said, I think we're
Absolutely.
going to stick to once a month. We'll be kind of going over the highlights, going over the auctions. Feel free to reach out to us, and I appreciate it, Kevin.
Absolutely. And you guys heard it here first. Shortbox Golden Age auctions launching this week. So stay tuned. Keep in touch. If you need anything at all, you guys know you can reach out to us, and we're happy to help. So hope you
Yes,
guys
sir.
enjoy the auction and happy bidding.
Good luck.